So welcome. If you're not breathing and relaxing while we're waiting here a moment or two more, I invite you to do so. I'm going to get settled. And a few folks still popping in. Feel free. Shake that body loose a little bit if you need to. It's cool here in New Hampshire this morning. Get the body a little rub, stretch, wake up while we wait. Or get started. Again, lovely to see you all. Let me just scroll through the names. I watched folks as they came in. Many of you look familiar, but a few names look new. So I'm Suzanne, for any of you who have not had the opportunity to kind of share space with me. Welcome. Great to have you join us for our meditation town hall. For many of you, familiar faces. It's wonderful to see you as always. Yeah. Luscious, luscious, luscious. So part of our gathering together is for this sense of community and practice together. So feel free as you're kind of getting settled, do what I did, which is feel free to kind of check in with who else has joined us. I like to leave it on gallery view because I like to see the population, the universe of our practice group today. But you do what works for you. If you'd rather put it on the highlight or pinned or whatever it is, because you just find it less distracting to have just one face in front of you, feel free to do that. Or you can leave it in the gallery view if that feeling of Sangha from looking at all the little squares and the faces and the names is kind of what you need in this moment. This is empowering. It's kind of my thing. Find what's going to work for you in this moment. No wrong answer. Just the answer that you need today. All right. Let's take a couple of deep breaths to arrive in our seat, in our place. I'll ring some bells. We'll invite the lineage, and we'll do some practice. Yeah. Invitation to really arrive in the body. And it can be nice to just take those intentional, like 3 deep breaths. You know, we're always into that number 3. In through the nose. Feel free to hold the breath for a moment in the belly. You can see me, I'm rubbing my belly. It's got a little extra there. It's okay. And then exhale, let that weight just drop into the cushion. Feel free to let it all go, including any expectations you had about this morning. Always helpful. You don't need those. I'm going to do 3. Do them in your own course or follow whatever is rocking your little boat today. That's 1 for me. Again, do in your own time, if you'd like. For me, I'm really collapsing that abdomen, that lower belly, and that exhale. Those of you who've done Pilates or other types of breath work, you know, just kind of getting out that stale energy. 3rd time's the charm. There. Well, that's helped me arrive with all of you. Help me make sure the body's here, fully connected. All right. Gotta love a good bell. bow to the Buddha in your seat. So it's common for us to begin with a little prayer, kind of invoking the lineage, the support. So we're going to pull up the Tara prayer. And I'm just going to read through the Tara prayer if that kind of resonates with you at all. Feel free. I actually have a white Tara over here. Green Tara is actually directly behind me. Kind of holding me in this lovely space. And if the Buddhist figures are not kind of your thing, that's perfectly fine. Feel free to just kind of connect with whatever energy in the universe is calling to you. You know, if you may have some from a Christian or another tradition, feel free. I'm working in the space that I'm comfortable in, and that calls to me. Or alternatively, if you've got friends who've touched and helped you along in this life, feel free to keep it very concrete. I think of my old math teacher who once told me, Suzanne, the reason why you don't get this is because you don't like it. And he was absolutely right. I had the wrong attitude. And I go back to him all the time. And sometimes he's in my beings that kind of cut right through the chase and that awakening wisdom, right? So whatever's going to work for you in this moment, feel free to tap into that, and we'll do the little Tara prayer for those that would like to. O Arya Tara, please lead us on the way to great liberation. Remove all obstacles to swift accomplishment. Fulfill all wishes and aspirations. Relieve all sufferings. Dispel all fears, anxieties, and hesitations, and protect me from doubt. Empower me as a liberator of beings, so that the ultimate benefit of oneself and others is quickly achieved. Infinite emerald green mandalas of magical activity emanations, instantly pervading the entire universe. May supreme perfect enlightenment like yours be ours. So, anyone experience any anger, fear, irritation this week? Any little misery? You know, I've been practicing a really, really long time because I'm kind of old. And, you know, I still get surprised from time to time. Like, oh, wow, that was a strong response to what's happening. So for those of you who don't know, besides being a longtime practitioner, I'm a lawyer, I'm in local government, parent of grown children now, pretty diverse and full life, and I intersect with a lot of different folks. But like I said, I've practiced a long time. And I still get surprised sometimes by how strong my responses are, my emotional responses. Sometimes it comes out my mouth to events and experiences. And sometimes they're the exterior ones of politics or actions in the world, no matter which side you're on, what your experience is. And sometimes it's very concrete. You know, it's like, oh, my body's aging and I'm really not happy with that. I'm annoyed, darn it. It's like, really? Come on. So it's kind of entertaining. And you notice the humor here, right? It's like, oh, there's that again. You know, and kind of facing it with some love and humor. As well, I have many moments that are just very joyful and blissful, particularly when I'm on my meditation cushion, but often I'm in many other spaces where I feel like the view is very much embodied and flowing, and there's just ease, even in the difficult spaces. There are times when that's not the case. And so what I thought we'd do today is kind of approach these perhaps challenging states, emotional, mental states, from kind of the two directions. As we often talk about with our Dzogchen, we're often coming down with the view, down, but coming from this way with the view in our practice, kind of cutting through, seeing through, using that wisdom eye, and helping us move through and embodying that view as we move through the world. But then there's also these relative practices. And some of it is kind of like traditional ethics, kind of conforming our behavior until we really can embody it wholeheartedly without effort. And sometimes it's also using some of the relative practices, meditation practices, that can help us kind of shine a spotlight on some of the habitual thinking that we have going on, or the habitual emotional responses that we might have. So when we do our practice today, we're going to do it in two parts. So our first part is going to be kind of a traditional loving kindness meditation. So we're going to use some intentionality for that. We'll do it in 5 stages. I'll guide you right through it if you're not familiar with it. And then we're going to take a little break. And then we're going to go into our Dzogchen practice, our cutting through and seeing through. Okay. So that's where we're going. Now, I am not going to know if you are doing a different practice. So you can set aside any judgment. And if this structure is not going to work for you today, then just sit in community, however that needs to manifest for you. This is an offering. So to warm us up for this kind of traditional loving practice, friendliness practice, I thought I'd start with little bits of quotes from Tolstoy, which a friend of mine who's a religion professor up in Canada happened to share. I thought, oh, this is going to be perfect for today. Clearly meant to come my way. So we'll start with this and then we'll dive into the practice. If once we admit that anything can be more important than a feeling of love for our fellows, then there is no crime which we may not commit with easy minds. Men think there are circumstances when one may deal with human beings without love. But there are no such circumstances. If you feel no love, sit still. And that's from Tolstoy's Resurrection, bits and pieces. Well, that kind of sums up our practice for this first generating of friendliness, love, compassion, however you want to frame it. So in this traditional 5-stage practice, we're going to start with ourselves, because you really got to love yourself, however hard that may be sometimes, just as you are. So it's going to be really helpful to start with the body in that. Particularly if your body's aging. Some of you look close to my age. So see if you can open up to just some loving kindness and well-wishing for you just as you are. And if you're fairly new to this practice, maybe it helps to just say, oh, may I be well. May I be relaxed and at ease. Or if you're more of a visual person, you can think of just wrapping yourself in kind of this cloak of kindness and well-wishing. I always think Tara just gives me this cloak. Or you can just kind of unfold it somatically. For those of you who are very familiar with your Dzogchen practice and just kind of sitting in the heart, you can just open up, but just with that little intentionality to allow the focus to be on you. So kind of gentle intentionality. May I be well. See if you can really feel that loving kindness for yourself all over. Don't forget the feet. A little loving kindness for everything in your heart. Might be a little tender. Particularly if you're like me, you had a little anger or fear this week. You can use the breath. Just going to breathe into anything that feels tender, needs a little extra care. So just relaxing into some self-care, some self-nourishment. Some self-acceptance. Really wrap yourself up in some kindness and some well-wishing. And then just open that up to a friend. It's our second stage of this 5-stage practice. Maybe you've got friends in this community. Pick one. Kind of the stand-in for all friends. May they be well. May they be at peace. It's less about effort and more about opening. Yeah. You just bring them to mind. You see them on the screen. Yeah. Very relaxed. No working, please. Very natural. All right, in this third stage, we're just going to pick someone we don't know. My guess is there might be someone you don't know on the screen. So it's like just to relax into some well-wishing, some friendliness towards someone you don't know. Lightest of effort. May they be well. Or just have a sense of that somatic. Just, I get that hugging kind of feeling. And if this is hard for you to stay connected or to kind of experience any kind of well-wishing for someone you don't know, do not judge that experience. Hold that experience in kindness for yourself. It's just what it is, and notice it. Lots of kindness in the Zoom room. All right, before we go on to the next stage, our fourth stage, gently kind of invite yourself to really immerse yourself in kindness for yourself again, for everything in your experience. Acceptance. In this fourth stage, we get to bring to mind someone who irritates us or makes us angry. If you're new to the practice, don't pick anyone too hard. Pick the neighbor who just, doesn't take in the trash can or something. Or maybe someone you work with who is a bit, maybe just doesn't communicate with you in the way that ideally they might communicate with you. But this is where the magic really sits. Very effective practice. Again, more like relaxing and opening rather than working and effortful. See if you can kind of open your heart to that person you find a bit challenging. May they be well. May they be free from cancer. May their children be free from addiction. It's just kind of resonating with them as a human being, subject to suffering. Even if their actions or their conduct hit us in ways that perhaps set us off. Again, don't judge your experience. Just see what happens, because you're holding yourself in kindness while you're just opening up to the possibility that you can still wish someone well, even when you disagree with them or their conduct is not what you think it should be. I want to make sure no one's working too hard. So traditionally, in the fifth stage and final stage, we open up and kind of send that love out to all beings and that well-wishing. But we're going to do a little different here. So for those of you who have a last name between A and M, you are going to just receive the well-wishing from the rest of the community. Because sometimes it's very hard to receive, isn't it? And to not do, to not give. Because we're going into our other practice in a minute, so it's kind of our warm-up. So, your last name begins anywhere between A and M. I invite you to relax and receive the well-wishing from the community. Now we'll flip it. The N through Z last names. invitation to do nothing except sit and receive. There's some lusciousness going on around here. We're going to take this right into our Dzogchen practice of just sitting and just being. And when we finish that, in lieu of our traditional dedication of merits, then we'll flow that right out into love and compassion for all beings at the end. So shake it out if you need to. Take your drink. You just had some practice just sitting and receiving. And now we're going to take it from the other side of the practice, the swooping down from above with the view. I'm going to read a little something that Lama Surya sent around earlier this week. It's a translation, a somewhat modern 50s translation, but for those of you who are sensitive to translations, you'll see why your ears might prick at certain points. And it's a translation of a piece from Longchenpa. Lama Surya sent it around early this week, and I read it, and I was like, oh, this is not helpful, and normally I like Longchenpa. And I set it aside, and people who were with me yesterday will hear about this. They know this. And it's because I didn't like what I heard, right? Because I was feeling some distress this week. And I was like, oh, this is not feeling helpful. Which is why I had to go and do some relative practices so I could be in the view again. Yeah. Because there's a reference to misery in here. So I was like, oh, that's not helpful. But it is. But it helps if you have the foundation of that love and care and acceptance, and the heart is open and warm. And sometimes it's easier to kind of sit in the view and then ultimately live the view. So I'll read this little bit from Longchenpa, and then we'll sit, see what happens for you. Listen, great being. Do not create duality from the unique state. Happiness and misery are one in pure and total presence. Buddhas and beings are one in the nature of mind. Appearances and beings, the environment and its inhabitants are one in reality. Even the duality of truth and falsehood are the same in reality. Rigpa. Do not latch onto happiness. Do not eliminate misery. Thereby everything is accomplished. Ha! So we'll just sit. Invitation as needed. Take those intentional breaths, relaxing into the body. Relaxing into the breath. Sweet breath, sweet breath. And opening up into just being. Do not create duality from the unique state. So just sit and not do. Sometimes the body's the great helpmate here. Relaxed. Breath can also be the great helpmate. You can just ride that out breath and then let yourself just drop over the end. I'll count to 3, and on 3, invitation to really drop further, relax further. 1, 2, 3. Listen, great being. Do not create duality from the unique state. Happiness and misery are one in pure and total presence. Buddhas and beings are one in the nature of mind. Appearances and beings, the environment and its inhabitants, are one in reality. Even the duality of truth and falsehood are the same in reality. Do not latch onto happiness. Do not eliminate misery. Thereby everything is accomplished. All right, as we kind of wind up our time together, feel free to take some intentional 3 deep breaths in the heart chakra area, right in the center of the heart. Let's warm up that heart in case it's not already warmed up enough. Open up that rib cage. Nice exhale. Third time for me. As we kind of dedicate this practice, let's send some kindness out into the world. However that needs to manifest for you. You've got family members and friends who need a little extra love and care. Certainly there's a lot of pain and suffering in various parts of the world, and sometimes right next door. All beings everywhere. Sending out that well-wishing. So the quote I read you from Longchenpa, like I said, I saw it come in through the thread text earlier this week, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm not sure I'm feeling the truth that. I'm not sure I'm kind of good with misery right now. And if you've been around for a while and had a practice for a while, you kind of know that when something rubs you in an unexpected way, you ought to go look at it. Oh, what's there? And what was there for me this week was, oh, I am pretty annoyed about a lot of things right now. Some fear here and there. I'm like, that tells me I need to spend a little time in using some practice, and the practice you use may depend on kind of where you are and what you're familiar with. I need to kind of take care of my heart a little bit and hold tenderly the fact that I do have some fears, that sometimes in certain situations I might get triggered, like I don't see the suffering of others as quickly. And so that's what was so useful about getting that text, about the reality. We sit in the absolute and it's all as it is in all its messiness and all its bliss, because often I get a lot of bliss when I'm hanging out there, oftentimes. And yet in the reality, as we move through and try to manifest and live that truth, it's hard. It's hard. It's not so hard when you're sitting on your cushion alone and no one's in your face and you're not reading the news, or you're not trying to solve a problem, or you're not going to the doctor's office. But sometimes it's really hard when we're out in that place of motion. And that's why I think sometimes the relative practice, what I call the other practices, which are not the open practices, but more concrete sometimes with like a 4-stage, 5-stage medabhavna, loving kindness or karuna practice, compassion practice, can be really helpful and stabilizing, particularly if you find you have the same trigger. So that 4th stage of that practice, as a lawyer, I used to put opposing counsel, and I still do sometimes. If I know I'm going to court, I'll do that practice beforehand, and it just helps me make sure that I'm not reactive in a way that feels yucky, frankly. I'm just doing what I need to do, but I'm not carrying it with any anger or irritation. And what I find is it miss the insults and that kind of stuff that happen. I'm just focused on what needs to be done, and it just isn't in a nice, calmer space to be. And certainly in the political environment I often am in, it's really helpful to be in that space. So it's really kind of, I have found, effective, and it sometimes is very supportive then of this big view. It's really big view. It's all there in all its messiness. And they're all manifestations of being. Rigpa. Oh, that's really big. Really big. It also means we still act from compassion, right? When things are in front of us. We don't say, oh, well, it's all good. There's that balance point of finding our intersection of compassionate action. But then you don't get too attached to the outcome. There's how you show up in the moment, but not being attached to the outcome. Tricky. So I'll stop there. Got a couple minutes. If anyone has something that's kind of calling to them to share, I'm happy to, being mindful of space and time, take that in. Or if you've got some question, you can put it in the chat, or we can just kind of be in this space, because it's lovely. I love community. I think there's so much value in our collective coming together. I'll keep babbling on. I'll rejoice in this and our time, because these can be challenging times. And I really think it's important to empower all of us to find our way through these times. And how we work through may be a little different from how I work through. Tools, approaches, and always love. Always love. For you and for all beings. Always love. And that's hard. That can be really hard. No doubt about it. But it's so effective, is all I can say. Much different person than I was 30 years ago. When I started doing this, I can say that practices work, and I've seen them work in others. It's not just me. I've really seen the transformation. And I know a lot of you have too, because I know some of you here. So sadhu. Yeehaw. Lovely, lovely to be in practice with you. Go be Buddhas.